Hello. Thank you for coming along. My name is Tony Horgan, and I'm here today with Korg. You can see Korg over at the nice dome there in the middle of the show floor. Today I'm here to talk to you mostly about the Korg Volca Series and my guides to the Korg Volca Series. My guides are available for iPhone, iPad and Mac. And as you can see, I have a guide for each of the 6 in the series currently. You can try them for free, and you can buy them if you like. And if you want to come and see me afterwards and ask me for a download code for any one of them, then do that and you can try the whole thing for free. So today, I'm mostly going to be talking to you about the Volca sample. There are 6 Volcas in the range. These are the Volcas here. So today I have the Volca Keys, the Volca sample, and the Volca Fm. The thing with the Volcas, there are a few things with the Volcas. What makes a Volca a Volca? Well, it's this big. I haven't got the dimensions to hand. It's got all the connections on the front, which is nice, so you can tessellate them like this. They've all got a speaker on the back. They've all got an internal sequencer. And they've all got loads of knobs. So if you're a bit fed up of clicking your mouse and messing around with Ableton Live or whatever you use on the computer and getting a bit bored and going around in circles doing things there, which I was doing for years, then I think you'll really enjoy the Volcas. So what we have here is the Volca Keys, which is an analog synthesizer. It's true analog. It's got some lovely filters on it. I'll play you a quick loop here. There's a lot you can do to change the sound in real time, which is really nice. You can play a pattern into any of the Volca keys using the keyboard, or you can connect up to a computer or a MIDI keyboard. I quite often use a Volca, I don't use a Volca, I use a microKORG quite often, the microKORG S, because it's similar kind of, it's about the size of 3 of these. It's got little keys, and the microKORG S, being the latest version of it, has kind of speakers built into it. You can't see the speakers. But it makes a big sound without being plugged into anything, and it runs on batteries. So you can just plug that in, connect into the MIDI, and then you've got a proper keyboard. You can press record on here and then record some sequences into it. And then take it out, and then you've got the sequence here. So that's how I recorded this sequence here. That was recorded with a keyboard via MIDI, and then you can kind of take it away. Put it in there and take it away. So that's the Volca Keys. This is the Volca sample, and this is the Volca FM. I'll show you the Volca FM very briefly, and then we'll get onto the Volca sample. So the Volca FM is really based on the Yamaha DX7, which many people will remember from the 80s. It was a synth that was firmly rooted in the 80s. And if you listen back to a lot of 80s music, especially if you listen to kind of ballads and stuff like that, you'll hear loads of familiar sounds, FM sounds, frequency modulation sounds from the DX7. So the Volca FM uses the same architecture as the DX7, which means there are millions, I haven't counted them, but about 1 million, I estimate, patches that you can download free from the internet and put into your Volca FM. So you've got loads of nice electric pianos, basses, lots of sounds that really cut through a mix. And the Volca FM, being one of the more recent Volcas, has some features that the earlier ones don't, such as chaining patterns together. So instead of just having one loop, you can put a few together. So you can come up with a chord sequence like this. So you can put those chords in, and then you've got that nice chord sequence you can play over and add bass lines and things like that, rather than just being locked into a 16-step pattern. This has also got a lot of real-time controls as well that you wouldn't find on a DX7, which was all little buttons and things like that. I've no idea how people have managed to create so many patches for it, because if you ever tried to program a DX7, it was just a major headache. What does that do? What does that do? I don't know. Whereas this, you can load all those patches on, but you can also mess around with them as well. So, you've got all these knobs that you can mess about with. You couldn't do that on a DX7. Right, now, coming on to the main event, I think, for today, because we're at BPM, the DJ show, the Korg Volca sample is a great one for anyone who's into DJing and who wants to come up with stuff quickly, create some beats, or maybe add something to something that's already playing. So the Volca sample works in the same way, and it plays back samples, and you can play them back in standard ways, or you can really mess them up and mangle them around. So, as you will see in my guides, he said, plugging his guides once again, there are lots of ways that you can mess around with them. So so for example, you can change the length setting of the sample. So in this example, I've got a sample with a speech synthesizer counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can change the length of the amount of the sample that you want to play, and you can also change the start point, so you can play this bit or that bit. So this is what I'm showing you now. Let's see if the audio works.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, so that's the whole sample. You can just play half of it by changing the length setting.
1, 2.
Or you could change the start point and the length setting.
3.
So you're just playing that 3 section, or you could play the end of it.
3, 4.
Or you could reverse it and mess around with the start point and the length setting. And there are lots of other things you can do with looping, for example. Let me flick onto the loop section, and where are we? Part reverse, mute, solo, function, loop. Where are we? These guides are great. They're all hyperlinked, so you can switch backwards and forwards between all sorts of different sections and understand it at your own point. So here's some examples of what you can do with the loop settings. So this is adjusting the length setting and the start point. Just by taking the length right down, then you come right down to the little bit, right down to the tiniest little steps of the sample, and then you can kind of stretch it back out again. Another thing you can do, similar to that, is to put the loop on, and then you can change the start point. So let's see how that sounds. So instead of playing the whole sample looped, play the whole sample and then start to shorten it from the start. Is it going to play? It's going like this and then it's coming down. I'm just getting that tiny bit there. And then you can bring it back again. You can even do a time stretch effect by triggering the sample on every step, and then turning on the loop, and then taking the length of the loop to a very small setting, and then changing the start point so that it kind of scans through the sample and then back again. It sounds like this. That's getting it down to there, and then you can move it along and back like this. So that's the kind of thing you can do when you're just messing around with it, which is great for jingles and that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do now is stop talking for a few minutes and play you some music. So what I've got going on here is I've got a loop on the Volca Keys. This one is recorded into the Volca Keys using the Flux Mode, which means even though you have 16 steps, and normally every note you play into it will be quantized onto one of the steps, in Flux Mode it doesn't quantize, so you get, I think it's 8 notes you can actually have per step. So if your playing is tight enough, or if you're using a sequencer or an arpeggiator, you can get some really good longer tracks into there, especially if you switch it down to the quarter tempo mode. Another trick I've used to get even longer patterns is this track I'm going to play you is 160 BPM, but the Volca sample is in charge here and it's set to 80 BPM, which allows me to get twice the length of the patterns. So I've got 2 bars of breakbeats going on in here. So the sounds I've got going on the Volca sample I will show you now, just so you know what's going on. Let's see if this works anyway. So I've got some breakbeats here. Just by changing the sample knob, I can reassign this part 1, to a different sample, and then you hear that. What else do I have? I'm not going to use that one, but that's quite a nice electric guitar thing I've got going on there. I've got some vocals.
You don't know where I have been. You don't know what I have seen. No, you don't know.
So I've got those 3 vocal clips and I've just chopped them up so that they will fit within those 2 bars, and then I'll rearrange them as we play. And finally, I've got a bass sound which is actually just one cycle of a sine wave, or a slightly jaggedy sine wave really, but one cycle of a wave which is looped, which I'm using for a bass sound. It's looped so then it becomes a longer sound. I'll try and find that. You'll probably just hear some other random samples I've got in here for now. Anyway. Anyway, so various samples in there. That's a nice one. Where is it? I like that one. Right, so let's make some noise. Oh yes, and in the FM I've got those 4 chords. So I'm going to play this now. I'm going to start with the velocity down on the Volca FM so it mutes the sound. I'm going to start with the cutoff down on here so it mutes the sound again. And I'm going to start with this pattern here, and I'm going to use the high cut knob here also to mute this sample. So I'm going to change that sample because I want to start off with something that hasn't got the bass in it, and then I can bring that one in with the high cut. Anyway, so enough talking, let's do some musicking. Ready, steady, go. So, here we go. There we go. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming and listening to me. You can find me over at the Korg area, and if you would like a free download code for any of my Volca guides, please come over and see me and let me know which one you would like. What else was I going to say? Oh yes, so I'm Tony Horgan, just in case you forgot that. You can follow me on Twitter at the Tony Horgan. There's only one, isn't there, really? Well, actually, there is another one. But anyway, let's not talk about him. And you can look me up on YouTube, where I'm doing this kind of stuff quite often in my shed and sometimes at a place like this. So, yeah, thanks for having me, and see you again soon. Goodbye.